Well, ladies and gentlemen, Apple's finally done it. Ladies and gentlemen, they did it. They figured out how to steal some of the customers that have Android phones. They did it. The secret sauce has been revealed. Okay, well, they didn't exactly steal them. They convinced them to buy iPhones. Now, you might think, well, that's not exactly what your title says. It implies that maybe they went in the night and got people out of bed and took them with them to the great Apple ecosystem in the sky. It's not what happened. But I want you to think about this. Consider this. If I said Apple convinced people to buy more iPhones than Android phones, would you have clicked this video? Be real honest. You know you wouldn't have. So now that we're past that, and some of you might be angry, that's okay. Leave a comment below. Give me some of that engagement. Love the watch time. But more importantly than that, I will tell you, indeed, how Apple was able to convert more people than ever before from an Android phone to an iPhone. Stolen or not. Don't worry about it, because I'll tell you all about it right after this.
This is, you listening to Travis.
What up, players? Welcome back. And for all you new people, welcome. My name's Travis and I do tech videos every single week and have a blast doing them. If that sounds like fun to you, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Anything I talk about will be in the description below. But for now, let's just get into the video. Now, as the global pandemic continues, we know and have known for a while that this would impact smartphone sales. I've actually been talking about this for a couple of months now, even told people that maybe the iPhone 12 and the Galaxy Note 20 should be delayed or just not brought out in 2020 at all. Maybe I'll leave a link for those videos in the description at the end, because I brought up some pretty good points, at least I thought so. Here's the thing. What happened is exactly what I thought would happen. A bunch of phones didn't get sold. Let's talk about the Galaxy S20 so far. So in 2020, the sales are pretty miserable. As a matter of fact, sales are down 38% versus the Samsung S10 from the same 4 months the year previous. At least the activations are. I mean, sales and activations seem to be about the same numbers. And there shouldn't be a surprise. People are shut in. They don't necessarily need to upgrade their phones. And if they did, a lot of people upgrade their phones by going out to a store and doing it. Without stores being open, they can't do it. True, all smartphone manufacturers suffered some losses across the board this year, the first 4 months being pretty brutal. For some of the countries and some of the states here in America that have opened up, an immediate kind of boon to the sales of some of those phones happened, but for the most part, everyone was down. But as I've been saying for a while now, Apple seems to be impervious to a lot of these market shifts. They definitely did not sell as many iPhones as previously. However, they kind of have a better market share than a year ago in January when they didn't have a pandemic to fight against. In the first quarter of 2019, they had a 12% market share versus a 14% market share in 2020. What? Huh? How in the six sides of heck did they do that? Now, iPhone revenues fell 7%, but there are some positive signs like iPhone install bases hit an all-time high in every region. So more people owned iPhones in every region than pretty much ever before. Why now? It's kind of weird. Well, I mean, Apple did release one phone that may have just saved them. Earlier this year, Apple released the iPhone SE. Now, this was a pretty controversial phone on tech YouTube, as the tech YouTubers didn't like it because it was kind of an older design, but with upgraded internals. But as I said before, the average consumer's not going to care about that. And I was both right and wrong, because you see, there was a bunch of people who still had iPhone 6s that upgraded to the SE. Now, this makes a lot of sense because, of course, the iPhone SE looks just like an iPhone 6, and that kind of bared out in the sales. You see, over 30% of SE buyers come from either using an iPhone 6s or older iPhone. So they like the familiarity of that handset, and they got it with upgraded internals and a better camera. So while people who buy flagships every year were scoffing at the iPhone SE, Apple kind of knew what they were doing. They finally released a phone that for the first time in a long time from their iPhone line with some iPhone specs in an Android pricing. And this is what causes some Android users who've always wanted to try iOS to leave. Over 26% of new iPhone SE owners were Android users, which is higher than the norm for people coming from Android to iOS. So why? Well, this just goes back to what I was saying. There's a lot of people who've always wanted to try an iPhone. I know here in America, pretty much anyone who has friends. I mean, some of you have friends, right? I think some of you might have friends. I guarantee if you have more than one friend, at least one of those people has an iPhone. And some of the cool things you do with iMessage and AirDrop and emojis and all that other sort of thing are things that people seem to like. So when having an opportunity to upgrade, they can finally get into an iPhone without paying a whole bunch of money, you know, that iPhone Pro price. Because up until this point, Android pretty much dominated the amount of varied phones at a different price range from, I mean, you can get some for about $100 all the way up to over $1,400. iOS and iPhones weren't really that way. They were always the newest stuff and then slightly older and maybe $500, $600. But at $400 plus subsidies and buy one, get one frees and everything, you can get into an iPhone really cheaply. And the pent-up demand for a cheap iPhone just unleashed itself. Now imagine if there wasn't a pandemic. These numbers would be crazy. And this is where Samsung made a mistake. Their entire S series line that came out this year were all $900 and above. It was really just a bad mistake. Hopefully they'll learn from that next year and go back to the S10e. By the way, an S10e kind of phone, I actually did a review on the S10e very recently, so why don't you check that out? I'll leave a link in the description below. That's a great phone. I don't know why they didn't do that for the S20e line. It could have been an S20e. Tell me in the comments below, would you have bought an S20e? By bringing out a phone at an affordable price, Apple did the unthinkable. They are now in the price range of most Android mid-range phones with a spec'd out phone with a much better processor and the ability to take better pictures. Now you might say that has the old iPhone 8 optics or whatever, but as I've told you before, it has nothing to do with the hardware. Pictures now are all about the software, and the upgraded software on the iPhone SE takes darn good pictures and video. And at a mid-range price, most people aren't side-loading Gcam, which I absolutely say you should if you have a phone that doesn't have great cameras on the Android side of things. They don't even know what Gcam is, but they know what a good picture is, and using it on Facebook and Instagram and Tinder. My guess is the sales of the iPhone SE 2020 are going to do so well that Apple will continue to release phones at this price. If they do this, they can continue to claw back some of the amazing amount of people that are still out there on the Android side of things that do want to try an iPhone. Imagine if they come out with an SE Plus, slightly larger design, something that people who don't want a smaller design might be interested in. Or maybe a new version of the iPhone XR at $400. Yeah. They win pretty easily with that one. I said it at the beginning of this year. This year is the battleground for $500 and below. Samsung ignored that for the most part for their S series of phones, and Apple looked at it as a new battleground. Now, of course, Samsung does have the A series of phones, and you can find those some places, but they're not making very many commercials, at least not here in North America, on the A series of phones. But what do you think? Did Apple use the correct strategy here to walk away with a bigger market share this year than probably they should have been able to, by simply releasing one more phone than they normally do, the iPhone SE? Like I said, I did a video about this a while back. It'll be right here. I did a video about the S10e, which I think Samsung needs to go back to right here. And I'll see you next time. Peace and love.